Rev up your engines!
Well, Tesla's replaced a bunch of U.S. workers with foreign workers using those H-1B visas. And Musk wants to increase them. Why? Because he can pay them less. If you get engineers from India or wherever, they will work a lot cheaper than an American who got an engineering degree in the United States that cost a whole bunch more money, heavily in debt, got to pay his student debts off, right? But he's an American who lives here. But old Elon, he wants to hire foreign people, and he has been doing it because he's a cheapskate. I had a customer come here a couple of years ago. And I said, well, what do you do? He says, well, I used to be an engineer at Elon Musk's plant in California. But they fired our engineering firm because our contract was up, and they hired an engineering firm that would do it for a cheaper price. He just wants to make things as cheap as possible. It's no wonder these Teslas have problems. That's this whole modus operandi. Let's build them as cheap as we can, pay people as little as possible. And on X, Elon got mad at the people who were mad at him for saying, hey, you're hiring these foreign people. Here's part of his response. Take a big step and bleep yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue. How ridiculous. Because he doesn't want to pay people more money working there, right? I mean, here we got the richest guy on the planet, and he's too cheap to pay good engineers. So he gets them from foreign places where they'll work cheaper. And then to use that kind of language as a response. They shouldn't be allowed to hire foreign people when there's American engineers that want a job. Right? And he's only doing it because it's cheaper. That's quite obvious, you know? You pay them less. Why do you think all these American manufacturers, Ford, GM, used to be Chrysler was American, but now it's European, but still the same thing. They move all their factories down to Mexico because it's cheaper to build them there. They don't care about American workers. They just want to make things as cheap as possible and charge as much as they can. Did you notice when they moved the cars down to Mexico, did the prices come down? No, the prices kept going up. They were just making them cheaper and making more profit. The same thing with Elon. He wants to pay engineers less. He just wants to make them cheaper. Another one's jumping off the electric car bandwagon. Shell just announces that the Shell Recharge is exiting the U.S. EV charger software market. If you remember, Shell did have hydrogen gas stations for the Toyota hydrogen car that they had, the Mirai in California, and they shut all those hydrogen fuel stations down. Then the people who bought the Mirais are suing Toyota saying, you stole this car and there's no fuel for it. Well, now they're leaving the software business for electric charging stations. Like I say, this thing is so not planned, so not ready for prime time, it'll make your head spin. And I say, oh, don't worry, they're going to fix all that. Yeah, why would they? If it's not profitable, there is no reason for companies to do it. Unlike gas stations where, let's face the facts, you don't have a gas station in your driveway or in your garage, right? So you buy all your gas and you drive out to a business where people sell gas and make a profit. You do have electric power at your house. Well, most people do, unless you're a hillbilly out in the middle of nowhere, right? So you could charge your car at home, and something like 90% of the charging in California is done at home. So why, if you're a businessman, would you want to open up an electric charging station when 90% of the business is done at the people's houses? You're not going to make that much profit. You're not going to have that much volume, right? And they sell lots of gasoline. How much electricity are they going to sell? People say, oh, well, they charge too much. I'll just charge it up at home, and it's more convenient too, because I don't want to be sitting for 45 minutes charging it there. I'll just have it plugged into my house while I'm sleeping. So it just shows that this stuff is not ready for prime time. Shell is exiting this thing. It's just people need to start wising up about this stuff and not just thinking, oh yeah, it's great, it's going to be the future. You know, maybe in the far, far future. And every day I seem to read an article, radical new battery technology out. Batteries will go 1 million miles. They'll recharge in 20 seconds. And then you read, well, this is based on a university study involving tiny little batteries like this and maybe little toy cars, not real big cars. And all this stuff is just suppositions that we'll be able to mass produce this stuff, that it will work on a larger scale. It doesn't exist yet. And if you buy an electric car today, you're a fool, because maybe 5 years from now, they'll come up with radical new batteries. Well, guess what? You got the old one that's a piece of junk and nobody wants, doesn't go that far, doesn't charge up. They might not even have stations to charge them up in the future. They might have radical new charging ones for radical new batteries. Who knows? knows? But it doesn't exist yet. People think tariffs are going to work. The problem is there's lots of ways of sidestepping them. In the past, China has sidestepped all kinds of tariffs. They'll do stuff like they'll start making something in China, but then they'll send it to Malaysia or India for the final assembly so that it says made in India, made in the Philippines, whatever, and then it doesn't have it on it. I mean, there's always ways for people to get by stuff. Just like when they would have arms embargoes against countries in Africa, they would just ship it from one country to another back, and then it ends up in Africa from the company that's not supposed to sell stuff there. There's all kinds of ways to bypass things like that. It'll make your head spin. A range of bicycles that they say are manufactured in Austin, Texas. They may be put together there, the wheels and stuff, but it all comes from China. They just put it together and say, made in USA. So, there's all kinds of ways for getting around. For example, ages ago, Mercedes-Benz set smaller trucks over here. They would take like the transmissions and engines out, then they'd bring them to the United States, and then in the United States, they'd put the engines or transmissions back in. So it wouldn't do a tariff for trucks that came from Europe. There's all kinds of ways for people to get around that stuff. Hey, these people have lawyers, strings of lawyers, to figure out what they can get away with, who does research of where something actually comes from. If it says made in India and it came from India, who's going to be arguing that? What are they going to get Sherlock Holmes out to follow the whole range to see where it came from? So a lot of times things aren't as simple as they seem. As a matter of fact, most of the times things aren't as simple as they seem. They're a lot more complex. There's not a simple answer to just about anything. Now, you kind of wonder what's going on here, but the EPA just approved a pilot project to make roads out of radioactive material in Florida. And you might think, whoa, what's going on? Well, you never know. When Trump was president before, they said, okay, you can do this. But then the Biden administration said, no, you can't. And now they're going to do it again. The EPA has just approved a pilot project that would allow a company to build a small road made out of radioactive agricultural byproducts from fertilizer. One of the byproducts of fertilizer is phosphogypsum. It has radium, which decays and makes radon gas, the stuff you don't want to have in your house, right? Now, in 1992, they said the use of phosphogypsum in road construction created risks for construction workers and anybody who later builds a home where the road had once been. Now they're saying you can do it, and they're doing a pilot project. Let's face the facts. I don't know how radioactive, couldn't be all that radioactive to begin with, but it does create radon gas. So the guys working on the roads are breathing it in. And like they said, if you build a house near there, or if later on they build something over the road, and they build houses on top of it, like in my hometown of Niagara Falls, where they made Love Canal, where a chemical company dumped all kinds of caustic chemicals in an old abandoned canal. It was called Love Canal. The guy's name was Love. He was going to make a canal to go towards Lake Ontario. He was going to build this whole utilitarian community, kind of like early hippies or something. He only got about a mile and a half, and he ran out of money through all these chemicals. And then they built houses and a school. I even went to the school that was on top of it. No wonder the kids were all kind of wacky around there, right? In this case, they're worried about that, probably rightfully so, the way they do things. But now they're allowing it. They're going to do a test road in Florida. My advice is find out wherever that is and don't live near there. Well, it looks like Toyota's bringing back the Previa minivan, but it's coming back as an electric minivan. They don't have all the specs out because they said they're going to do it in 2026. So it'll probably be a couple of years before they're actually out there. But it's going to be a fully electric one. I guess they want to compete with the Volkswagen ID.Buzz. What a stupid name for their microvan. The ID.Buzz isn't doing too well. At the price range that they're charging for them, people are, and how the short range that they have, all the hippies will come out and they'll buy these things. Well, a lot of the hippies are gone now, 1960 was a long time ago. That was 60-something years ago, so A lot of those people aren't around anymore. Well, I guess the Previa van, it's more modern, so maybe the people who had one will go out and buy an electric version. I don't know. Now, like I say, it's not going to be out until 2026, but it'd be kind of an interesting thing if they do get it out to see if Toyota seriously makes something that has range and stuff, because according to Toyota, they're saying that by 2026 they'll have solid-state batteries. I don't know if it's real or not, but if it is, and they put a solid-state battery in this thing, that could be a game changer. If they make it and if they last over time, who knows? But they're planning on building them 2026, and we'll see. See if I'm right. See if they are making it. See if it has a solid-state battery. But as per usual with electric vehicles, this is in the future. So that's what I tell people. You're going to buy an electric car, buy it in the future. Don't buy it in the present. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.